Okay, let me ask you something real quick. Have you ever seen those videos of Chinese uncles and aunties moving like NPCs in a battle royale? Diving for free food like it's the last supply drop before the server is shut down. Yeah, those ones. You've probably run into at least one of these clips where a group of elderly people turn a calm public event into a WWE match for senior citizens. All over something that costs $5 or is literally free. If it has a price tag of 0, expect a city level threat coming your way. Now in Hubei province, there is this one blogger named Bai Tai, which literally means cabbage. This guy was just a regular dude. He was not rich and he was not sponsored by anything. And he decides to do a good thing for the community. He sets up a street stall pretty much giving away free beef noodles. It was just a charity where over several months he spent over 200,000 yuan from his own pocket to help the community. And of course when doing something like this, you want to keep the cost down and you don't want trash piling up everywhere. So you just ask people to bring their own bowls and chopsticks. And if you forget, well, fine, you know, there's a disposable bowl that he'll give you for just a little bit extra. Pretty reasonable, right? Well, apparently not. One day, an elderly woman shows up empty-handed, so he just asked her to pay for a disposable bowl. She started yelling, cussing, screaming about how she's been here since 3 p.m. waiting, like, you know, she's queuing up for Taylor Swift tickets. And then she proceeds to start throwing bean sprouts and tableware at him, pretty much over a bowl that costs literal cents.
我有别针。
那是你的儿孙的，给他打球一些。不就闹了3点钟都来了，他没带完，他都是不够。
And the situation got so ugly that Bai Tai literally had to shut down the event that night. And later he revealed that this wasn't just one person. Another woman tried to take 2 portions, got stopped, and responded with throwing food on the ground and cussing and yelling at him for 10 minutes straight. Like imagine spending 200k yuan trying to help your community out just to get verbally abused because somebody couldn't get their VIP treatment at a free noodle stall. And the saddest part is not a single person in the crowd stood up for him. Everybody just watched. He said he'd eventually just pause the whole thing until after the spring festival because, you know, mentally it was just not worth it. Most people followed the rules, most people were grateful, but it only takes one entitled auntie to think that she's the main character to just absolutely ruin everything. I mean, if a young person did half of this, like they'd probably be kicked out of their community. Like everybody would label that guy as selfish. But you know, when it's older people, they're old. Just let it go, you know, they've suffered before. Most of the time, everybody stays silent because young people don't want confrontation. And many organizers are, of course, afraid of causing a scene, you know, because like, you know, who would yell at an elderly person? So for the aunties and unks, the loudest and most aggressive behavior wins by default. And once somebody realizes, oh, I can do this and nothing happens. One auntie throws a fit, gets it her way. The next auntie watches and learns. Now it's a strategy. You can even see here, they're giving out free tissues and the aunties just keep circling around like they're stuck in a time vortex. We got to a point where auntie fell on the ground with the cart too. If I can't have it, nobody can. Now, I'm sure you guys have refrigerators in your homes. Now, imagine hundreds of people crowding over a refrigerator. Like, you must think there's some legendary loot in there. Like, what's going on? So basically, a KFC in China launched a food bank fridge where unsold meals would go into this refrigerator and anybody in need could, you know, take some for free. So what happens? The moment staff stock the fridge, it looks like an apocalyptic event. A group of older men and women just rush directly into the fridge like they're trying to speed run how fast they can stock up on KFC. There was no line and it was just pure instinct. People shoving, elbowing, stuffing food in their pockets, and some even just dropped it on the floor. And within seconds, the fridge was empty. Of course, this Chinese KFC eventually had to change the system. They stopped doing the self-servicing and staff just had to manually hand out the food and manage the orders. Like, I'm sure they were shocked once they saw what happened here. And this went viral. Like, netizens just straight up started suggesting smart locks, face ID, license and registration, basically turning a fridge charity into a TSA checkpoint. Of course, it's extremely embarrassing and greedy, and I mean, not everyone grabbing food was poor. Most of them just saw the word free and their brain shut off. There's also this supermarket where 50 people gathered outside before opening. Why? Goat milk powder. Not because they personally needed it, but you know, because back in China, it resells for crazy value. So some of them arrived hours early to literally reserve spots by putting down shopping baskets on the ground. Like this is some kind of sneaker drop. And then when the staff finally rolled out the restock trolley, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, when the cart appeared, It looked like somebody dropped a piece of meat in a piranha tank. Like, people pressed their entire bodies against the trolley. This elderly man even fell to the ground, and instead of letting go, he clutched onto the milk. He held onto it like it was his last lifeline, like it was his baby, dragging himself along the floor. You know, at this point, it looks more like MMA than grocery shopping. Here we have someone giving away tote bags, and you can see that they're literally just ripping it and like grabbing it from the person giving it away. The waist is not sore and the legs are not painful. This is the aunties who need to give up their seats on the bus. Another similar situation here. Many retired elders were brought in by neighborhood committees to show them innovation, technology, and like culture. This was hosted as an import expo, and in one of the booths they had free samples. The moment they smell free food, it's over. The aunties and uncles started crowding the booths and like directly just grabbing the samples with their hands and their mouths. Some even pulling out plastic bags like they're at a supermarket. Even the exhibitors themselves said that, you know, they've been to almost 100 countries and they've never seen something like this. And honestly, looking at this, like, it looks so bad that it kind of looks impressive how they were able to pull out this feat. And the video spreads like wildfire. Like, everybody starts to get embarrassed. And eventually they tried to delete some of the videos, but you know, this kind of behavior, everybody's just gonna keep reposting it, and netizens do not tolerate this. Now, this isn't just about being poor or growing up hungry, because if that were the case, then everybody in this generation would act like this, but they don't. Plenty of elderly people do queue up in line properly, and they do have manners. What's actually going on? Now, a lot of this behavior is about control. For a huge portion of their lives, many older people did not have consumer power. They didn't really have any choices or leverage. You ate what you got, you took what was available, and you didn't really have any options. Fast forward to now, society changes and many living standards are starting to soften up. So there's this peak glimpse of a moment. You get that chance. And especially for people with the mindset of, I deserve this and nobody can tell me otherwise. This behavior, of course, has been stereotyped in China for a long time now. And sometimes it's expected, like people tolerate it all the time. But you know, if you bring this abroad, not a good look. There's this Chinese tour group that got criticized online heavily once they arrived at this Thailand buffet. As you can see, once again, no line, no shame. Of course, people are pushing. The classic #1 move. And the plates go directly into the serving trays. Not tongs, but the plates. Some aunties even got 3 layers deep into one plate. And the crazy part, these aren't poorly dressed people. Like, some of them are wearing luxury bags, necklaces, pearls, LV. Like, come on. And afterwards, half of the food is untouched, just waste everywhere. Of course, netizens called them hungry ghosts, zombies, pretty much saying that they brought shame to their country. There were only 2 tongs for hundreds of people, and the tour group only had 30 minutes before being rushed out. Understandable, but I don't think that really justifies you shoving your plate into a shared tray. And even on cruises, since tickets are expensive, the logic becomes, if I don't eat enough, I'm losing money. It's not worth it. Like, pretty much turning the buffet into like an investment recovery plan. There were even some cruise ships like Norwegian Joy that partly pulled out the China market because of the food waste and the passenger behavior. As if it couldn't get any worse, this even pulled itself into marriages and weddings. This woman attended her cousin's wedding banquet in Jiangxi. Big round table, everybody dressed nicely, you know, nobody was expecting anything crazy. Then the 5th dish gets served. Out of nowhere, a middle-aged woman stands up, reaches in her pocket, and pulls out a red plastic bag like she's about to commit a heist. No warning, no hesitation. She dumps the entire dish into the bag, and before anybody can process what just happened, the rest of the aunties at the table go ultra instinct. They all pull out their own red plastic bags. It's like they all had it prepared from the beginning. You know, they had it all planned out. They probably even have their own limited edition Lunar New Year bag just for this occasion. Of course, the young people were like, we haven't even touched our chopsticks yet the food is already gone. For many elderly people growing up, food scarcity was a real thing. And, you know, food disappearing was a very real threat. So there's 2 options they think of. Is this polite? Or, if I don't act now, I might lose my chance forever. Meanwhile, younger people grew up with convenience stores, food delivery, you know, endless options. So both sides are reacting from completely different realities. But either way, that doesn't excuse bad behavior. But the one thing it does explain is why telling aunties, just chill, doesn't work. So yeah, not every auntie and unc is like this. But I'll tell you what though, the next time you enter a buffet and see a Chinese auntie in the vicinity, be prepared to enter the ring with them and give them your best right hook.